Call the meeting to order. First order of business is public comment. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come to the podium, state your name and address. Address your comments to the board, not to the public.
I have a question. Hayley from the library, Hayley Van Gils. I have 5 letters from patrons in support of our full-time youth services. I'm just wondering when the best time to, people that wanted to be here that couldn't be here tonight, when the best time to give those to you or read them to you?
Probably when we do the public hearing.
Now?
Not yet. This is still public comment.
Oh, okay, thank
It's the
you.
next one.
Okay, thank you. Perfect.
So non-budget comments from the audience, maybe?
That is a budget comment.
That's
Well,
what I'm saying.
Right.
they
Can we
can-
make non-budget comments?
it's public comment. You can talk about anything you want. But anybody?
So do you want to have a session?
Yes, you can wait till the next session.
Thank you.
Anybody? No. All right, moving right along. Next order of business is the public hearing. This is the second budget hearing, so I officially open the budget hearing. So Andy, do you have a presentation, or do you want to take the comments first?
You can certainly take the comments first, and I'll get the budget up on the screen so we
All right.
can do it.
So Haley, are you the designated reader?
I am the designated reader for these 5 letters. I'm not sure if anybody else here would like to say something or not, but I was emailed quite a few things today that I
Okay.
said I would read out that people wanted to specify to you.
And just state.
I will say who it is. I've also got their addresses and things if you need that
State
too.
who.
My name is Hayley and I'm from the library, Hayley Van Gils,
Thank you very much.
library director.
Go ahead.
So I'm speaking on behalf of the residents, obviously, that have sent me these letters today in support of Judy, our youth services librarian. In the letters, they're referring directly to Judy in their communications, but I wanted to clarify with the board that it's the full-time position of youth services librarian that we are desperately in need of. And of course, we would love to retain our amazing youth services librarian to show how much she is respected and valued in our library and community, but it is actually the full-time position in the children's room that is becoming a necessity, whoever might be in this position in the future. So the first letter is from Sarah Bauer, 139 Nancy Hill Road. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to let you know that I'm in full support of Miss Judy Belanger being promoted to full-time. She is an invaluable asset to this community and runs one of the best children's programs I've ever seen. I'm excited to support her name in getting on the ballot for a town vote. Second letter, Lisa Sparopoulos, I think it's 5 Elder Osborne Drive. To whom it may concern, please accept this letter in strong support of extending Judith Belanger's children's librarian position to full-time, as recommended by the library trustees. Ms. Belanger is an incredible asset to this town, dedicating herself beyond her current part-time hours, hosting successful community events, including a free after-school children's program twice a week. Ms. Belanger provides programs and support to the children and families of town beyond her work, and we would be remiss if we lost her to another town. I enthusiastically recommend to vote to approve her to a full-time position. Thank you for your time and consideration. This is from Roxanne O'Connor to Federal Hill, Lee. To whom it may concern, I'm writing this letter in support of increasing Judy Belanger's children's librarian position to full-time, as recommended by the trustees. It's very tempting to go on and on about all the reasons that this is deserved, but I know you're all very busy, so I'll try to be succinct. Judy works hard at the library and has changed, to be honest, slightly difficult daughter's life. Her willingness to offer a diversity of programs has helped my daughter to love reading and to love the library. I know with certainty that Judy has had this impact on hundreds of children in our town. To make that kind of impact takes hours and hours of work and dedication and should be compensated. Please consider allowing this matter to go up for a vote. And this is to you, I think. Your hard work on our town's behalf is appreciated. Please feel free to reach out to me with further questions. And I believe this is 2 more. Bethany Henry, to whom it may concern, I'm writing to publicly support the trustees' recommendation to make Judith Belanger's children's librarian position full-time. Her work adds huge value to the library as well as to the community as a whole, which in turn is a benefit to the town. I ask that you please allow this item to go up for vote. Thank you. Bethany Henry. Ashley Budman, 7 Tuttle Road. To whom it may concern, please acknowledge my support with Judy Belanger's children's librarian position becoming full-time, as recommended. I am unable to attend this meeting in person this evening. The amount of time and energy she contributes to bringing the children so much joy and knowledge is priceless. My child adores the service and the after-school programs cultivated by Judy. I could only imagine how much more she could offer this community with more hours. If you, the select people, allow it to go up for vote, that would be greatly appreciated by our town. Many thanks. Last one is Kathleen Harris, 18 Wheelwright Drive. To whom it may concern, please acknowledge my support with Judith Belanger's children's librarian position becoming full-time as recommended by the trustees. She puts in countless hours and energy to her job, and the children really are so lucky to have her. If you, the select people, allow it to go up for vote, that would be greatly appreciated by our town. Many thanks for all you do. Kind regards, Kathleen Harris. That's all.
Can you provide copies to the town
I can
administrator
give you
for the
these,
record?
absolutely. You can have these.
Thank you. I can scan those tomorrow.
Thank you.
Get you copies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, Andy, you have something you want to?
Sure.
Did we have more people?
Do we
Yeah,
also-
we have a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you still get to speak, but he's doing the presentation.
You want them to wait until the presentation's over, is what you're saying?
I don't think yours is very long, right?
I'm just going to run through the budget and answer some of the questions that the board and people had at the last meeting.
Yes, so you all get to speak if you want to speak. So he's just giving you some information, so.
For those that weren't at the first budget hearing, this is the budget as proposed. There's been very little change from what was presented at the first hearing. There was a little bit of sort of cleanup in a couple of places. We removed $5,200 in financial administration that had been posted under the accounting assistant line. No, thought we had removed it. We were intending to remove it. The budget committee had recommended it. But we don't need that money, so that $5,200 can come out. And just to start at the top, I'm sorry, we're in the first change here. As the budget breaks down, if you're not familiar with it, the first section, the BOS section, that's the select board, includes the salary for the town administrator, the assistant town administrator, the select board salary, some other things. The lead readers funding that was put there just because we had no other good place to put it. Elections and registration is fairly self-explanatory. That is the cost for the folks who make elections happen in town, the supervisor for the checklist. Town clerk and tax collector. This is the town clerk's salary, the assistant town clerk for the deputy town clerk's salary, and the associated costs that go along with running that office. Financial administration is in large part what I do and what I account for. We have the finance officer's salary in here. As I explained at the last public hearing, we're looking at making a change to the finance office position. We're going to be contracting with a company called Municipal Resources Incorporated for some of our accounting assistants, and we'll be hiring a bookkeeper to assist with that, but not at the same degree that the finance director did. Financial administration continues. Things like telephone costs, computer hardware, computer software, our IT services. And the IT services are actually more than just software management. Our IT coordinator assists with the live stream television, for lack of a better term, broadcast of these meetings. The public hearing before this was also live streamed. IT services also assist with security in the town offices and cameras on the town buildings. Assessing, this is the firm that we contract with, Municipal Resources Incorporated, for day-to-day assessing activities, pickups of new property, changes when property is sold, that sort of thing. Legal expense is a catch-all for legal expenses the town might face. We take sort of a stab in the dark, and some years come close to hitting the budget, some years go over the budget, and some years don't spend too much at all. One of the changes we made was we had two separate lines. There was a similar line to legal planning and zoning that was removed from the budget. Personnel, and this is obviously the largest cost in the budget. This is management, payment of employees, ancillary expenses that go along with payroll, insurance, obviously a large part of that. Planning and zoning, this is the planning and zoning department. This includes both the planning and zoning director and the code enforcement officer. And a lot of the changes that you'll see in these particular sections of the budget are, there's a couple of drivers. One is obviously energy costs. Nothing has gotten cheaper with regard to gasoline or electricity. We are enjoying some savings in this building this year from the insulation project. The other driver of the budget increase is personnel costs. As salaries are adjusted in previous years, that has an effect on the budget, obviously. Government buildings, this is what the DPW department manages. These are all the government buildings in town. This building, the town offices, some of the smaller buildings that we maintain, the cost of maintaining them. Cemetery, fairly straightforward, not much increase there, but they are anticipating some increased expense. Property liability, that is our insurance package for insuring our buildings, insuring our mobile equipment, insuring our automobiles. You'll also see lines in the budget for workers' comp insurance, and also obviously the medical insurance is a big chunk of that insurance cost too. The police department. Dispatch, this is an agreement we have. The fire dispatch agreement is with UNH. The police is with Stratford County Dispatch. And the fire department. EOC, that's Emergency Operations Center. That's budgeted for when we have bad storm, that type of thing. That kicks in. It's a centralized command post that oversees fire, rescue, police, and outreach activities during the event. Highway is pretty self-explanatory. It is the equipment and folks that keep the roads clear. And transfer station. And these the solid waste numbers were updated by DPW Director Stephen, based on the new numbers that Selectman Bugby had provided us with. And that was since the last meeting. And these were checked to make sure we had the actual, under social services, these are associations, organizations that reach out to Lee. They provide services in the community that we don't provide as a municipality. The Budget Committee and the Select Board verify that each of these organizations actually serve people in Lee. They provide some financial background and give us an idea of exactly how much support they provide. General assistance, this is the welfare officer and money for welfare operations. Lee does a remarkably good job of not spending a tremendous amount of money in this department. We do have people that are served regularly by the general assistance officer. She does incredible outreach with any number of other organizations that provide assistance so that she doesn't have to dip into her funding. You are required to provide certain degrees of general assistance by state RSA, so it's important that we have some money in this budget, even if we don't come close to spending it. Parks and Recreation, these are events outside of the Oyster River Youth Association's organized sporting events that occur in town. Some of the events they sponsor, things like the fishing derby. I'm probably forgetting some good ones, Katrin, if you could.
Egg hunt, the
Rocket.
fair, yeah, Model Rocket Day.
The library. Conservation, the conservation money is moved to the Conservation Commission in just one lump sum without a breakdown of exactly what it's spent on, presented in the budget, although certainly everything that it is spent on is well accounted for. And the bond this year will be going away. This will be your last payment on the transfer station bond. I'm sorry, the public safety complex.
Next year will be transfer.
These are the capital reserve funds, or the amounts requested to go into them. I also have a slide showing the balances in the capital reserve fund that was sent to the select board earlier. And that is the budget. You can see the differences. This column, the last column over here, is what the ABC recommended. Back down to it. Not high enough. So this is what the departments had requested. This is what the ABC recommended. When we get down to the bottom, you can see there is some difference. And I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions people have in general about the budget, the operating budget.
Yep, go ahead.
Kalika Bauer, 139 Winsdale Road. I'm also here in support of promoting Judith Belanger to full-time position. I would like to see that go to a vote. And I was wondering if you could speak on the budget of the library of how promoting her would impact taxpayers.
Sure, let me change my illustration here. Get rid of community power. All right. Where is the... This gives you an idea of, and if I get down to the bottom, some of that is a little bit more information than you probably need, but the total cost increase to make the youth services librarian full-time, based on the numbers the library trustees submitted, would be $20,509. And that contemplates the salary increase, which was rather small, that the trustees proposed, as well as the ancillary costs. The larger part of the ancillary cost would be the benefits added when you went from part-time to full-time.
And that's the max amount that it would be, because we don't know what people will take as far as benefit.
Actually, the finance director calculated pretty exactly based on what was expected to be used for these numbers.
Thank you.
So 20,500 is essentially the answer you're looking for.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
Hello,
Hello.
Hi.
my name is Nicole Montez and I live at 40 Northside Road. I don't know if you need to know that,
Yes.
but please acknowledge my support of the children's librarian position becoming a full-time as recommended by the trustees. In the 7 years that I have lived here in Lee, my parents have lived here for a lot longer than that, but you know, the children's program has actually flourished under Judith. And my personal opinion is, even if Judith doesn't stay, it is a very positive program for our community, particularly with her. She's designed multiple programs to bring the community together. She is everything you would want as a face of the wonderful programs that she puts on. She goes above and beyond to ensure programs are run, they're flawless, they're safe, and it's geared towards the children and what they basically look for in a program. She probably works as a teacher. She's basically a teacher in that library where she works countless hours beyond her part-time position. And I think it's time that we show her in that position the appreciation and give that extra time to execute what they should be doing. And I just wanted to pull out something that the trustees, well, first, typically Google. Most children's libraries typically work a standard 4 hours a week, and I did not bring stuff about Madbury or Barrington, but I will have no problem researching that to bring that to the next meeting, to show that children's programs are important and a full-time position is important as well. And the mission to the Lee Library is a center of community activity, gathering place for sharing ideas and knowledge, a safe, welcoming center for all, a place to pursue cultural knowledge, a gateway for larger words through diverse library materials, and a provider of programs and services to enlighten our children. If you just add children to all of that, she's top notch, and it would be a huge disservice if we lose her. Thank you.
Do you want me to walk through the warrant articles as well?
Do we have any more? Let's make sure everyone gets a chance.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I'm Katie Gorsky. I live at 44 George Bennett Road in Lee. I'm just going to piggyback on everybody else that I really hope that you guys can submit this to the town to vote for Judy. Thank you.
Jessica Lewis, I live at 8 Allen Ave, and I echo everyone else's sentiments. I've lived here for many years. And prior to Judy, we didn't have children's programs the way Judy has created and implemented children's programs. And they have created an incredibly safe and welcoming environment for our children, particularly in a post-COVID era, where we're just trying to socialize again. We're trying to normalize again. We're trying to find our way back to each other. And Judy has created a safe place for children to be together and to socialize. In school right now, it's all about academics, and these kids are not getting the social opportunities that Judy is creating. She's also started bringing in programs from UNH to help the kids access more STEM activities and be more engaged in their education. And in a time when print books are kind of becoming out of date, everyone's stuck in technology, she's bringing these kids back into the library. And by using that old town hall space, families are often going over to the library after those programs and checking out books and accessing the library in a way that they wouldn't without Judy. And other children's librarians prior to Judy didn't. So I strongly encourage you to consider putting this to a town vote. Thank you.
Anybody else? Go. Okay.
Hi,
Hello.
Amy Doherty, 5 Mitchell Road. Could you speak to, I haven't been paying attention to the budget meetings and stuff, but you know, I do support Judy going full-time. My kids love her, we love her. So could you just speak a little as to why the advisory budget committee did not vote to have this, or you know, to have this removed from the budget?
I don't know if we can speak for
We
a
are
group
not the
that,
advisory budget.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if that they had a write-up or a
There is a-
reason.
I know there is a recording of that
yeah.
meeting, and you can listen to them as they're debating each line item on the entire budget, and then you can
Okay.
find that part that is.
Yeah, you can link that off the front page of the town webpage. You can link directly to any of the ABC meetings.
Okay.
It should be live streamed on there.
Okay, great. And then, but you guys have the final sort of.
No, the voter has the final.
Well, yes. So, you know, when do you guys make your final decision on this? Because I know that, I think January 11th is the last time for residents to submit petition warrant articles.
I think that's
It's actually January 10th.
Okay, so tomorrow.
Tomorrow
So,
at 4 p.m. is the
Okay.
cutoff.
and so today you'll make your decision whether or not you'll add this back in or keep it out and give residents one day to possibly submit a petition warrant article?
Yeah, so technically, this is supposed to be our last unless we can't come to a final decision, and then we have, what's the last day that we could have a budget?
Unless you make a final decision this evening, I'm going to ask you to move to continue the Town of Lee's budget hearing until January 23rd.
Which is the next meeting.
Correct.
Thanks
So we would have until then to petition?
I don't think so.
No, you
No,
have
you
till
have
4
until-
tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 4 to
Yeah,
petition.
right.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Gail Kinberg. I live at 12 Lee Hill Road. I have known Judy Belanger for, I think, around 20 years. She she did childcare in her home for a long time, and she cared for 3 of my grandchildren, and we never had a complaint or an issue with her. At the risk of making this a personal thing, as opposed to the position, I would say that when you consider a position of the children's librarian, whether it's part-time or full-time, you want a person who has integrity, who shows strong moral character and value, who cares about the community and the people that are in it, and models this for the children that he or she interacts with. I don't think you could put a monetary value on that. These are young children, they're very impressionable, and they need to be treated with dignity and respect, not to argue and fight with each other, and to honor that relationship. And what we have now is a person who does that every single day in every single way. But regardless of whether Judy was in the position, it's important that the position be perpetuated for the value that it gives to our community and the value that it gives to our youth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
John Tappan, 187 Stepping Stones Road. We have a column here for department head requests. We have a column for the advisory budget committee's recommendation. Where's the column for the select board's plan?
We got to that point, yeah.
So if this is a budget hearing, it seems like it's almost going to have to be continued because you can't see. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Library or otherwise?
Yeah, anything.
Maybe.
We saw other things. Yeah. We have great cost
And
savings
it's okay,
ideas for us.
because Andy can also go through the warrant articles, and then we can come back and if you have questions about those or anything else.
Yes, I can certainly run through the warrant articles. Article 1 is, as it always is, to elect the officers for the town, and that's your select board, advisory budget committee.
Can we share the filing dates as well? Because anyone in the audience can run, and anyone that's a resident of town can.
Yes, the filing dates are January 23rd is the opening, and you can register through the 4th of February. And you do that at the town clerk's office, and the town clerk will be open until, I believe, 6 o'clock on Friday the 4th to accept
February 4th
signups.
is the work session on Saturday, I think it's the 3rd. Look.
I may have deliberative session
Yeah.
combined
The
with that.
3rd of February, are we sure that that's, I will check the dates. But yes, so,
It's Wednesday through Friday.
yes,
Wednesday through the next.
The next Friday.
perfect. And so there'll be positions available that you can run for, and all you have to do is fill out.
And I've posted once on the town Facebook page, and I will post again as we get a little closer, what positions are open and what the dates and times are.
And the other thing you can do, if you're not familiar with what the position is, you can call Andy or Denise and find out exactly what that entails.
Or contact the person that currently has the position,
Right.
or contact somebody
Can
who's
do
done
that.
the past. There's all kinds of ways. If you have any questions, please just reach out.
I have one question. Do I still have time?
Mhm.
So, Hayden and Girls Library, being still relatively new to the library and the town of Lee, I just wanted to ask a question of you guys to help me understand the procedures within the town. I would like to know if all departments in the town follow the same procedure for moving their employees from part-time to full-time. And if not, is there a reason for that?
It's a good question.
It's always a request that's made.
And often
Yes.
it's in the
Yeah.
budget.
The reason I ask, looking at the proposed budget, the ABC recommend a significant amount of money be moved from the transfer station part-time wage to full-time wage without a mention of the health benefits or the impact that those health benefits will have on the budget. So I'm curious to know how the procedures differ for the library. Does that make sense? Or for the department?
It depends on when that particular request was made, because I think that request was prior to we started doing budget stuff, not the ABC stuff. The ABC was different. So, yeah.
It's slightly different because we have trustees who are actually, have a different relationship than we do, so there's a different way we go about things, but yes, they often come to us and will say, because I'm not using this part of the budget, or there's something else happening, or because of whatever need, and then they will request that change. So I think it's different because we don't have the same connection, but I think that at any time you could come and say, you know, we need to change this in the budget.
So if another department, for example, Public Works, came and wanted to move something to full-time, they would just come separately to ask you, and it wouldn't go to vote, and it would just be approved? Like, I don't understand
The only thing
fully.
that's going to vote is the budget. So what you do with, what the library does with its budget is up to the trustees. So we're just trying to make sure that there's the amount of money for the budget, and that's, so I don't know how to explain that.
I think, let me anticipate where you're going with this. I think if you wait until after we do this presentation of this stuff, you allow the board to have a conversation about what I believe you're talking about. I think you'll probably get an indication if that's gonna be put in or not put in.
Okay, that's not where I'm trying to understand where the library fits into the town. As a relatively new person in the town, I just want to know where.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The library is the only thing that's totally different is because they're autonomous.
Okay,
The select board has no control of the library has no control over the select board.
sure,
So they're totally separate.
gotcha,
That creates an interesting relationship.
absolutely.
So some of the things that other libraries do, like health benefits and stuff like that, trustees of the library just deal with them. We do them in-house because somebody's paying for it. It doesn't make any difference, you know, that you pay extra overhead and we pay extra overhead to do the same thing. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay,
So there's been a kind of coexistence, if you will, and it works because the select board works with the trustees and trustees work with the select board. If you had a different kind of group, that might not work. It works in the town of Lee. So to answer your question, if the public works person wants to improve somebody's, salary and or benefits or whatever, they come and have a conversation with us. That's different for you guys. You guys have the conversation and then at some point you bring it to us. That's what you're doing at this particular time. So that's the kind of difference.
so a little bit separate entities.
Yes.
Okay,
So I can't come in and say, you're not buying those books, you're buying this.
No, sure.
I can't do that. And just
understood.
like you can't come and tell us the same thing. But the thing is, it's kind of that working relationship,
Sure,
and we just make it work. It's always worked. At some point, it might not work.
great.
That's something we'll have to deal with in the future.
Thank you, Scott, I appreciate that. I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, it's an interesting relationship, because if you have a conversation, have your trustees talk to other trustees, in some towns, this does not work.
Oh,
It's
yep.
very,
I understand.
So we try to get along because ultimately the Lee taxpayer is paying for everything,
Mm-hmm,
no matter if it comes out of your pocket or comes out of our pocket. But if we can do things and make it cheaper for the taxpayer, that's beneficial for everybody.
absolutely. Well,
Sorry,
thank you.
I-
No, I appreciate that. No, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
But ultimately, what I said before, if you wait for a little while, because I think some of the
I'm here.
people here are a little nervous
Yeah.
that the petition date is tomorrow. So I think if you wait for just a little bit and give us an opportunity to have a conversation about it, I think you might get the answer that you are looking for. I won't tell you which answer that is, but. Any other questions? Don't ask any more hard questions, Haley. That was too much.
Sorry, I apologize.
I can run through these quickly. Article 2 is a planning board article regarding temporary signs, has nothing to do with the budget. Article 3 is where we will place the operating budget number that the select board chooses to present to the town. The number that we have here is the default budget, what the default budget would be.
Anything that we decide here would go away if we ended up with the default budget. Right? So if we decided to add something and then the town voted not to go with that budget,
Right.
then all those additions would be gone.
That's true. With regard to the default budget, you asked last week if there were outstanding contracts that might be able to add to the default budget. I consulted with DRA and they were pretty direct that the only thing we had that we could add to the default budget was our contract for the audit, which is a multi-year specific stipulated contract. The others were not available, and They were a little bit on edge about the audit contract. It added $1,100. Specifically, they prefer you to only add contracts that have been specifically discussed and approved at a deliberative session or a town meeting on their own merit. Something like an equipment purchase that has multiple years, that type of thing. After looking over my question, both the municipal association and our DRA person felt that the audit contract could be included.
All right, let me throw a bug into the ointment, a fly into the ointment. One of the things the RSA talks about is maybe the case by debt service contracts and other obligations. You've got down here still the debt service for this particular structure. That should be taken out, I would suspect.
Yes.
So that will change that by $60,000.
Yep.
So that has to be removed. So in terms of one of the things you want us to sign is the default budget, so that needs to be changed.
Take that. And that does reflect adding 1,100.
Okay. So we'll just have to remove 60,000 from the number.
Article 4, this is the library trustees' request for $200,000 to be deposited into the library building capital reserve fund. Article 5 is the fire equipment capital reserve fund, and many of these articles will be familiar to you. They're on the warrant every year. Article 7 is to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to install a 30,000-gallon cistern, and that is for a cistern at this building, not maintenance or taking care of the other cisterns that we have a capital reserve fund for. This is an attempt to get this building ready for a fire suppression system. Article 8, $89,000 to be deposited into the Highway Department Road and Bridge Improvement Plan capital reserve funds. Again, this has been on the warrant year on year. Transfer station capital reserve funds, highway equipment capital reserve funds. The fire department has submitted a warrant article looking for $43,000 for the purchase of a new fire utility pickup truck, and also to authorize withdrawal of this amount from the fire equipment capital reserve fund.
Can you explain that some of these are new taxes that are coming out? We're raising, and some of them are using funds that we already have, we've reserved, and then we're just taking them out of that bank account.
Right. Raising and appropriating is just identifying the money. It does not necessarily increase your tax burden. The money that are coming out of capital reserve funding, it's been earmarked for this purpose and is not having a direct effect on the tax rate. Although you are, in most cases, replenishing the funds in previous warrant articles. So, Article 12, this is to refurbish the 2010 Ford F-350 that the fire department uses as a forestry vehicle. Article 13, this is the internal service expendable trust for accrued benefits. That would be employees that have accrued vacation time, sick leave, that sort of thing. If they are terminated or retire, the town has a certain amount that they owe those employees on their exit. And I know the board had questioned the chart that Joanne Clancy and I had presented that was based on end of the year results. And I did review that with Joanne, and she felt that the vacation liability worksheet was actually very accurate. That's typically how we finish the year. We have a number of senior employees who have accumulated a lot of vacation time, a lot of sick time that does not get used, and that is typically how the year ends. Contingency funds, this is an annual visitor to the warrant as well. $20,000, essentially this goes into a fund to take care of unexpected things not budgeted for that crop up during the year.
May I interrupt? Denise is texting me. We all need to speak into the microphones better.
Thanks, thanks.
I'm just trying not to, thank you. Yes,
What is the difference between Article 7 and Article 14?
Article 7, Article 7 is specifically for a new cistern at, well, somewhere at this location to be hooked up to this building for a fire suppression sprinkler system, as opposed to just the residential cisterns that are around the town, which Article 17.
And we have a map of all the different cisterns that need to be updated or added, those kinds of things, that we've been doing a regular payment every year too, but then that's a brand new one, so they're separate. Because one is kicking it out from that, and there's a new idea.
Cisterns need a certain amount of maintenance to keep them, I know there are additives that go in the water, depending on what type of cistern it is. They need vegetation removed, that type of thing, so they can be accessed easily.
I have a question. Martin Castle, 135 Stepping Stone. On Article 14, so businesses such as Walgreens, which has a cistern, is that their responsibility to maintain?
Yes.
So
Yes.
businesses in town have to maintain their own cisterns?
That's my understanding. The fire chief is here, if I'm understanding that incorrectly.
Scott? They have to, okay.
You know, the cisterns referenced by that warrant article in that capital reserve fund would be residential neighborhood
Right.
cisterns.
And Chief Nemeth, is it also true that,
Come on up.
and also Chief Nemeth, isn't it also true that the ones that are in commercial or other buildings, you guys inspect those periodically, correct?
If it's a commercial building, we don't inspect them. We check them out. We run water through them to make sure they're okay. But when they're doing their sprinkler checks, then they have the company inspect their.
But they are checked periodically?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just real quick, the years on those trucks are wrong in those warrant articles.
Okay,
We'll fix that.
So I'll get that fixed.
I will review them with you. 15, this is to establish a contingency fund for the fiscal year 2023, and as I was explaining, this would be for unexpected circumstances that crop up during the year. An important thing to note here is that this sum to come from the unassigned fund balance. That means that no amount is raised from general taxation going into the next year. I will say, though, that when the select board sets the tax rate, they use the unassigned fund balance, so if you take too much out for other projects, it could have an effect on the board's ability to keep the tax rate level. Article 16 is $19,000 for renovation of the Lee Public Library and to authorize withdrawal of this amount from the Library Capital Reserve Fund. Again, that would mean no immediate hit on your taxes. $10,000 for the revaluation capital reserve fund. Every 5 years, the town has to revalue property and make sure that our ratio is correct for the Department of Revenue Administration, and it's a fairly costly endeavor to do that. So rather than try to pony up $50,000 in one single year, or whatever it might cost, the board requests that we put away a little bit each year. Article 18 is the readoption of optional veterans tax credits for the town, and the board has done two things here. As of last year, the New Hampshire State Legislature made it possible for active service veterans to be eligible for the veterans tax credit. Up until last year, you had to be a discharged veteran to be able to get the tax credit. There was legislation introduced, and that has now been extended to people that are actively in the service. However, the town has to re-vote on the tax credit and extend it to people who are in active service. The board has also decided to see if the town will vote to give the maximum veterans tax credit of $750. Right now it's at $500. The maximum allowable in New Hampshire is $750. So passage of Article 18 and passage of Article 19 would increase the veterans tax credit and extend it to active service military personnel as well.
Andy, can you speak to the two notes?
Pardon?
Under,
Yes.
can you speak to the two notes under?
Yeah, it's important to note that if Article 18 and 19 don't pass, the veterans tax credits revert to the state minimum, which is $50, and would only apply to veterans who are no longer in active service. So there are some rather stringent consequences if it doesn't pass. Article 20, for those of you that were here for the Lee Community Power public hearing, that's what this is all about. The program would provide a new default electric supply for the town of Lee. As was explained at the public hearing, there would be a number of options that you could purchase electricity. There's a base rate, there's the absolute cheapest rate power can be supplied at. There's my understanding is a sort of a median rate that incorporates some green power at a slightly higher rate. And then there is a program that focuses just on renewable and green power that has the highest rate in the program. As was explained this evening, the town needs to adopt this to move forward with the process. This has recently been made legal in New Hampshire under enabling legislation in the legislature. They have done a good job researching the project. We have an energy commission. You're under no obligation to participate if the town adopts this, and you can opt in or opt out at any time of the program and go back to Eversource or New Hampshire Electric Co-op, depending on whoever you had. Petition Article 21. I don't know if the petitioner is still with us. Ms. Doherty submitted this, and this would be to add the tax rate impact of each warrant article underneath it. This would occur next year if it passed. I have some familiarity with this. The only thing I would note is you have to explain very carefully how the tax rate was calculated, because typically when you calculate the tax rate to post under the warrant articles, you don't include the unassigned fund balance that the select board might use, that type of thing. So you can come up with a highly inflated tax rate. But as long as you explain how the calculations were arrived at, I think you could make a clear case to the voter. Petition Article 22 came in today, actually. While I was out of the office, it was delivered to my office. And just for the record, I was getting a key from the Historical Society to the annex. Shall the town suspend efforts to remove or demolish the Lee Parish House until July 1st, 2028? Those of you that have been in town longer than I know that there have been a couple of votes to extend the life of the parish house. Most recently in 2020, which I believe it was 2020. The most recent one that extended the lifespan of the parish house until July 1st of 2023. So this would extend it for 5 years with an eye towards preserving and future use. And that is what we have for warrant articles so far. As said, the period closes tomorrow afternoon.
I have a question.
Martin Castle, 135 Riverside, or Stepping Stone, forgot where I live. Back to the veterans credits. Why, so I guess at the deliberative meeting, somebody could come in and say, we would like, make a petition to remove Article 19. Because, I mean, to go from a tax credit of down to $50 a year, I mean, is really,
But it wouldn't allow.
you're really not giving veterans any credit.
You can't remove it. You can change certain parts of it, but you can't remove it.
It can't be removed, and you can't change the fundamental purpose of the language.
And it's only there because we had to put it in there because we didn't want to change it.
This is, the language used is stipulated by state RSA.
We were just asking for it to be a higher number. That's the thing that we were able to change.
And the thing you could change, Martin, at the deliberative session is the dollar amount. Instead of 750, you could have it something else. 750 is the
Go higher
max.
now.
Well, my concern is, you know, if it doesn't pass, then it goes down to $50, and you can't change that one, correct?
Correct. That would be our concern as well, so.
Pardon me?
That would be our concern as well. But we can't, there's nothing else we can do, right? That's the rules that we have to follow.
You can not offer it to active service veterans, but I think there are some active service veterans who are enthusiastic about this warrant article.
I'm not looking to reduce it, take it away from them.
Right.
I just have a concern that if it doesn't pass,
Right.
it goes from 500 to 50, which
Right.
really doesn't really make any impact on my
Tell your
tax.
friends to vote yes.
Yeah, exactly,
And that's what we can do, is vote yes, so
Yeah.
please vote yes if you like veterans.
Blackmail.
We're concerned with the same thing.
Hi, Eric Johnson, 43 Demerit Avenue. My question is regarding Article, I believe it's 22, it's the last one in there. If you wouldn't mind, could you just give us a little bit of history about what's gone on with the parish house? Like, when did we buy it? How much did we pay for it? Why did we buy it? What's the state of it now that we're even
How much time do you
considering?
have? You get the short
I'll
answer.
settle for the concise version.
Okay. The reason it was purchased in the first place, we were trying to find something, we were trying to find something to do in terms of space-wise. So the church was amenable to us purchasing the parish house plus about 4 acres of land. So it expands the footprint, if you will, for the town center, so we can have other options. That particular structure was used as a parsonage, it was used as a parish house, people were staying there. It's in not great shape, it does need some help. It is on the 7 to Save list, which is a historical building registry. But the thing is, it was don't quote me on this, but I think it was $175,000 we paid to the church for the building plus the property itself. And in terms of the year,
2018.
it was 18? All right. So
it was 18, Scott.
that's the history of how we got it. We've always tried to see if there's a purpose for it. And this particular warrant article was submitted really by the Heritage Commission and the Historical Society. And they think that that particular structure needs, not necessarily the reprieve, but we need to look at what we're gonna do with the town office building, where are we gonna do it? How are we gonna do it? The renovation of the old town hall, at that point, is there a use for that structure? Maybe the answer is no, and then we'll get rid of it. But until you know those particular answers, why get rid of something that possibly you can be having some use at down the road?
So what did we use it for, if anything, since 2018?
No one's allowed inside it because it's too dangerous
Nothing.
at this point. So there's a second petition warrant article that is, I think, getting signatures right now, that discusses, shall the town move forward with efforts to demolish or remove the parish house located at 15 Mass Road, given the time allotted for consideration of preservation by vote of the town in 2019? The original intent was to remove it, and the town voted yes. And then again in 2020, and that will expire on July 1st of 2023. So that will probably be added after 4 o'clock tomorrow.
Before council.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to sign that, they can. But the thing about a town building is that it isn't free. So even just having an empty one is cost. So you have to have security, you have to have, infestation, rodent things, keep your pipes from freezing. All these things add up. And I don't remember what the total was, but we did an estimate of how much it would cost to repair it just to make it usable again. And I know it was over $500,000, but I remember, I don't.
Depends on what you're gonna do with it.
So.
And there's no water in it, so there's no leakage. There's no cost really, the only thing is
Yeah,
insurance.
this is a person who knows a lot about it.
Well, I can speak to it a little bit. Gail Kinsberg.
Here, please, Sheila, thank you.
Sorry, Gail.
Well, I lived there, so. Gail Kinsberg, 12 Lee Hill Road. My husband and I lived there for 4.5 months. One of the previous pastors allowed their animals to use the dirt floor basement as an outhouse. and it was never properly cleaned out. So there's lots of odors and mold. The floors tilt toward the middle, which is where the stairway is. It's drafty. A previous tenant had a hard time heating it adequately, so they put in a pellet stove to try to supplement. The church spent a lot of time looking at many, many ways to use it for as many different purposes as we could think of. We came up with nothing. And it's, I believe the estimate is hundreds of thousands of dollars to reclaim it. It may be old, but it's not really good old. And I believe the only historic value pieces are the banister of the stairway, and I think the framing around the front door.
The percentage, but it's about $2 million.
I didn't know if it was like political, like, okay, we'll take these things from unassigned fund balance because, people will say yes, or, because that happens.
That is a
too,
game
so,
that can
yeah.
be played.
Okay.
That is a game that
We
can
try
be
not
played.
to play games.
Yeah. No, I appreciate, I just didn't know, because I know, well, I used to work in Barrington, and so typically if we have enough unassigned fund balance, every warrant article will come from unassigned fund balance first, and then if there's extra things outside of that, and then we would list articles based on priority or need. And so I was just trying to see how you guys do it here, just because I haven't been involved, so thank you, I appreciate that. All right.
I believe Amy is the ex-finance director from
Yeah.
Barrington, so
Very
she has a good understanding.
That's
Oh,
great.
does she need a job? Does she need a job? No?
Connor has already told me that he didn't think she was interested.
Maybe she can speak for herself.
Sounds like she knows what she's talking about.
Thank
I
you.
like to work remote.
Yeah,
All right,
Thank you.
thank you for your question. Anything else? Does anybody else have any, Mr. Chapman?
Excuse me for a second. I'm just gonna realize we might be having a little difficulty.
John Tappan, 187 Stepping Stones Road. The warrant article for $100,000 for the cistern at the public safety complex. Is that cistern only serving a fire suppression system in the public safety complex? Or is that cistern also, can we connect up to a pumper? So,
Chief?
They can do both.
Okay.
So it'll be hooked up to, if and when we do a sprinkler system for this building, we'll use it for that. But we could use it for training or other, if we have a fire in this area, there's one at Jargon's Drive that we can use as well, but it'll just add to the water supply we have for the town.
okay.
Chief, where would it be located? Do you have an idea?
No,
At the time?
the bigger issue here is all the ledge when they built the building. We could probably put it out front, which would give us better access so that we could use it for the surrounding area if we needed to.
It would be underground.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And the second question is, then why a warrant article at all? The select board is the agent to expend.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
And 2 years ago, March 2021, there was a warrant article to add to the purpose to allow that fund to be used for new cisterns, and that passed with 81.3% of the vote. At that time, inadvertently, renaming the select board as the agent to expend was left off of that warrant article. So it was done again last year, and it passed with 83.8%.
I agree, that's a great point.
In fact, if you look at, sort all of the warrant articles by percent yes, it got more than anything else on the ballot. So the select board already has the authority to pay for that by their own authority. Putting it as a warrant article confines you to a price, and it confines you, to some extent, to a schedule.
The other thing, just to let people know, and this is me speaking, not necessarily the board, but these are ones that are submitted. The board hasn't even talked about any of these yet. The other thing just to be aware of, when it says the select board recommends this article, that was just put in. We have not recommended any of these articles at this particular time. We haven't even talked about them. So yes, that would make sense, just to strip it out, and if the chief needs to put it in, we have the ability to put it in. So, thank you very much.
And the funds are there. You have more than enough money.
Any questions, comments?
I'm just gonna say it.
No, go ahead. Ask it now.
We love you participating.
Because when you get home, you're
You
gonna say.
don't want me to
"Ask it now."
participate.
We
You
do
really
want
don't
you to
want.
participate.
Nicole Mountain, 40 Northside Road. So, the library children. Are we now just writing a warrant, getting a certain amount of signature or
It's just a budget, it
petition?
just has to be put in the budget.
Yes.
Is that what you all agreed
We
upon?
haven't talked about it.
Will that happen tonight?
I can only speak for myself, yes, I'll have a conversation.
Well, I'm only asking because then we have to write something up, and we only have 12 hours?
No, yeah.
12.
16?
21.
Till tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
21 hours?
That's
I just want to know if we need to get to
That's a
the,
signature an hour, so
So
so we only need 25 signatures?
you only need 25.
I think that there's a request to move.
It's important to make sure, it's important to make sure that your 25 people are registered voters in the
Yes.
town of Lee.
Does it matter what, if they're Republican or Democrat?
No.
No.
That might
It never matters.
Okay. So, okay.
So, is there any more questions?
I just want to know.
I'm trying to fulfill your questions, because we can sit up here and talk forever, so we want to hear from you, that's the whole point of the public hearing. Anything? All right, I will leave the public hearing open, and if the select board would like to discuss this particular article, so that some of the people probably go home if they want to. So, maybe they're small children.
Oh, I thought Rebecca was going, you're not allowed to go home.
Well, we have a lot of parents here. They might want to go home.
Hi, child, not that small.
One's growing up, I don't really.
I mean,
Oh.
we'll keep your mom if you want. All right.
So, thoughts, ladies?
So their concern, their question relates to the budget, which is adding the additional hours to the library budget. So before we even get to warrant articles, they're wanting to hear from us. And I know last week, 2 weeks ago, I spoke strongly in favor of keeping the library, of adding the library to full-time. So I don't know if you two wanted to speak on where you stand.
Well, I was on the fence until Haley said last time that if you have a full-time librarian, children's librarian, you can be eligible for grants. So that has piqued my interest. One of the things also that I asked Andy to do, which he did, which he shared with everybody today, is in terms of the cost of that, the differential. The differential on the hourly wage is not very significant. The cost is in the benefits and things like that. So I would be in favor of it if Haley will commit to applying for grants for the children's librarian to help defray some of that particular cost.
How about the library, not Haley personally?
No, I'm holding.
Haley personally will commit to that, and
Impressive.
I thank you, because there is a lot more that we can do if we get this full-time person. Like I said last time, we need your help so that we can help ourselves. So we want to get as much grants and as much funding as we can get, and it will make a huge difference for us, even just to be able to apply. So, thank you.
So that's my comment.
Do we have any opposition?
I know, I'm not opposed to it at all. The only thing I'm gonna say before all the moms leave is the budget's gonna increase. Like, there's nothing we can do about the cost of heat and oil and gas. It's all gonna go up. And so we're looking at an increase in the overall budget. The $20,000 is peanuts compared to that whole increase, but if the budget fails, that also fails. So if you really want this position, people have to have a yes on the entire budget.
We can do that.
Just know it's giving sanity to all the mothers in the town, and that speaks.
Well, I know you all, I know moms, we've got a lot of power, we have a lot of friends. So people understanding that, like, voting on the whole budget includes money we just can't change how much heat costs, unfortunately. So if you look at it line by line, the things that you're seeing increasing really are things we can't just cut. We can't cut heat. And so when we increase something that we could theoretically have cut, we've got to stand behind that. So we would need you all to stand behind it.
The thing that also Rebecca's alluding to is the default budget. You've heard that many times tonight in terms of what the default budget is. one of the things we had changed between the budget it's being proposed and the default budget, is we've had to increase salary significantly to keep people, to attract people, and to keep the people that we've got. So for instance, if the budget fails and the default budget goes into effect, all those particular increases, we're gonna have to deal with that. Do we take those increases away? Those people will leave? Do we cut it from some other place? It makes our job extremely, extremely difficult. So just be aware of that. So my fear is the default budget goes into play and all those things that we tried to do, increase people's salaries and benefits, those all go away. So it is a particular issue. And like everybody knows, we're not the only ones. Everybody's feeling it. Inflation is hitting everybody really hard. And one of the things we have to be cognizant of that is the typical taxpayer that comes to vote. How bad are they feeling it? Are they feeling it really bad and they're going to vote no? So I'm not trying to say that the sky is falling, but just be aware of that. Just be cognizant of that. So.
And vote.
And vote.
In March.
March, what's the date? March.
So it sounds like you have 3 people that are in favor of keeping the children's librarian and associated benefits.
Yeah.
So I think that is a commitment that we'll give you. So if you want to, you can stay. You can go home.
That's full-time.
Full-time.
I just want.
With benefits, the whole nine.
So, okay?
Thank you.
Any other burning issues that we can help with you?
If anyone was on the fence, though, you guys did a great job. Thank you for coming tonight and making sure that any no fence today happened.
All right. Any other burning issues?
North Side Road, but.
I don't know what we can do about that. That's a state road. So.
State road, we can give you some context for DOT.
All right. So first things first, can we deal with the default budget? I'm amenable to it, but that total needs to be reduced by 60,000. If we can do that.
I will certainly do that, and
we don't have to sign that tonight, right?
You don't. I also want to talk to our DRA representative because that was uploaded with figures that they double check, and that's how it came back.
The RSA definitely speaks to debt service, and that is a debt service that is going away, so it's a commitment that's no longer there. So.
We're moving the live feed again.
I'm sorry?
The live feed is being lost again. She's saying that
it's definitely being recorded. I'm not sure why the live stream is.
Sorry, getting text messages from our technical assistants apparently about the live
We'd love
feed.
to be here. I'm sure we would love to have her.
It's pretty bad when the assistant town administrator tells the chairman of the board of selectmen what to do. So, that's pretty bad.
I don't know.
If we lose the live stream, we are recording everything, so it'll be a day or two before we have that.
Assistant town administrator wants to just make sure that I continue the budget hearing and don't close it.
I have some specific language, yes.
All right. So, ladies, what else do you want to talk about? You want to go through the budget and the warrant articles one by one?
Sure. Group by group.
What you want to do first? Let's do the budget first.
Okay, sure, great.
Anything in the board of selectmen that you want to tweak or change?
I just wanted to, the town administrator salary, was that the percentage we discussed, or is that contract based?
No, that was not the percentage you discussed, nor was it contract based. That was a number that I threw in during early budget setting, not knowing what the board was going to recommend for.
It is the 5% though.
Okay.
I just calculated it.
The other thing is, just when we're on that particular topic, I know the ABC put in across the board of 3%. The board talked about 4%. Where is that number?
That I have not put the.
Not added yet.
I have not added the 4% yet.
All right. So, is the board comfortable with 4%?
I have the figure for what that would be.
So, how about for the next iteration, you put in the 4%?
Yep.
I'm not sure if you can stick it in one line item.
I can do it in one line item, or I can spread it across the total cost for the 4% across part-time and full-time employees.
Okay,
It's
so if you have,
$99,000.
if you have time, that would be the preferable
Well,
way
we
to
could
do
just
it.
take each line and multiply by, never mind.
He can,
So we understand as a board that the inflation is much higher than 4%. We also understand that it's much higher for people that live in the town. And so we're trying to find that balance between the needs of our employees and the needs of the people that live here, and hoping to continue to give raises throughout the years in a more fair way, so that it is not a huge hit now and then not something at all next year, that kind of thing. That's the thinking that we're all agreeing with.
the other thing is, traditionally, this is for Haley's benefit, one of the things that works kind of nicely. When we do something like this, we give that particular amount as a lump sum to the trustees for them to determine what they're gonna do with those particular funds. So we don't necessarily say, okay, all your people get a 4% increase. That's the trustees' purview. They get to choose what they do with those particular funds. So if you can allocate whatever that particular amount is for those particular staff members, and then the trustees of the library can determine what they want to do with those particular funds. So,
And I can include the trustees with the worksheet that I provided for the select board that shows the specific costs to wages as well as all the ancillary costs for the library.
see, that's two groups working together.
Okay.
But people want thinking about it today, huh?
All right, anything else in the Board of Selectmen's?
I mean, we could cut the supply line. It never looks like it gets used.
We did, it's down to 300.
I know, but it was like 35 and 39, like maybe we can make it $50.
Do we not buy things for?
I think people, I think it's sort of like elementary school teachers that people in the office buy things and don't necessarily remember to get reimbursed. Or that one of the questions the board had for later on, when you, the next section, when you get down to meals for elections, I inquired about that. Both of the individuals that I spoke with were fairly confident that we had spent at least $1,000. In one case, one of the providers has not given us the bill yet. And I believe also one employee has not submitted anything for reimbursement yet.
So does that number seem reasonable for the year?
They thought it was.
Because we have less elections.
Less elections. Yeah.
Great. Then that
All right.
should be fine.
Okay.
So, nothing in either of those two? Okay. Town clerk, tax collector? Anything?
I didn't see anything before.
Okay. Financial administration?
Nope, we're just gonna have to hope we get some. Have you gotten any applications? No.
I've had 3 phone conversations with people that think they might send an application.
Did you scare them away, Andy?
I hope not.
Okay.
We're not under here. What line are we putting the bookkeeper under? Is it say somewhere?
The first line.
Become the finance.
Okay, so the office,
Yep.
that's actually the bookkeeper.
Yep.
Just to make sure it was the right thing. Thank you.
Okay. Financial administration, really the IT stuff. Anything in there? Assessing? Legal expenses?
Okay, we decided we do not need the P and Z line to be what dollar, because it's moved down someplace else.
Correct. We can delete that.
Okay,
entirely.
no, just making sure.
Okay. Personnel?
The only thing that I would mention, that I've mentioned each time, is I have no idea what the health insurance will actually be. I believe their recommendation to me was $517,000. That's typically well over what it actually comes back at when they get back to me in May or so.
Can you also deal with that last line? That's really the ancillary expenses that go to the library.
Yep.
So spread that where it needs to be spread in the other lines.
Right, and that, the information that I sent you earlier has that breakout, and what I showed this evening. Okay.
Planning and zoning?
My only question was about the recording fees, which is still request at 50 and ABC at 500.
We should go with an extra 0. Should we?
I'm fairly confident it was an extra 0, but
Okay, then I would go with the 50.
Okay. So can we change that?
Yep.
Thank you. Government buildings,
So government buildings do not used to be covered, and the reason that the expenses are so high is because we are finally maintaining them properly. So in case anyone's listening, that's why we have so many expenses right now, as they're slowly getting back up to decent.
The board had asked if I would check with the Department of Public Works and if energy usage would be reduced for this building due to the insulation project. Mr. Bullock was not particularly confident that we should drop the fuel number by, I think the question was, could we drop it by $1,000 or more?
Something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He didn't think that was a good idea.
Got it.
okay.
Do you wanna,
Do we, sorry,
okay. We're gonna have Steve coming in with a question about Mr. Bullock.
I just, that heat line for this building, I just didn't think it was a good idea to go crazy on it, considering it's probably been the warmest fall we've had. And it hasn't exactly been cold out this winter.
That's true.
So we don't really know what it's gonna be like when it's actually cold. I think it probably takes some, but I don't know if I'd go nuts with it.
we'll just leave it?
How, I know you've alluded a couple times to the maintenance line for this year is already kind of gone.
Yeah, we're overspent, but
Okay.
we also spent $9,000 about putting exit lights in buildings that have never had them before because of the Department of Labor inspection, so I wouldn't be as overspent. But just, we spent like $8,000 on the furnace room in this building for a broken pressure tank and a bunch of other stuff that was wrong with the furnace room in this building, so I don't personally think it's that good of an idea to cut that $8,000, but I understand it.
We're gonna be wishing we had it.
So like, during the windstorm, some flashing blew off that side of the building over there next to one of the windows, and when we went to try to reattach it, all the wood behind and in between the windows is rotten, so.
Does insurance cover any of that if it's in a storm? Or just the outside, not the rotten part?
Insurance would cover wind-driven objects breaking the building, water-driven into the building other than groundwater. We typically not cover anything associated with age, wear, or rot.
Right, I just didn't know if the actual flashing and all that would be.
Conceivable,
The only reason it came off was because there was nothing on the building behind
That
it.
makes sense.
But I mean, that's still a lot more than what we currently had budgeted, so I mean, it'd probably work, it's just, we keep finding more and more things.
Keep it the way it is?
The way you requested or the way that ABC requested? I was asking your question.
Personally, I would leave it, and then if he needs something, that's what the contingency is for.
Which is what we just did
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Do you think having a new assistant, which is something we've discussed, will allow more of in-house repair to happen?
That and the new job that we just put out, the job description was for more of a maintenance
We might be able
person
to do a little bit of savings that way by not.
than a janitor. It was more maintenance-wise, more maintenance-based than janitorial-based.
Just while you're mentioning the contingency, the board had asked last meeting what the balance was in the contingency fund, and it's $11,518 as of today.
Oh dear.
That's
And
left.
it's January.
Yes, that's what's left,
Okay. Thank you.
halfway through.
All right. All set with government buildings?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Come on up.
Ann Tappan, 187 Stepping Stones Road. Could you go back to the top of that? The third one, I just don't know why the numbers are the way they are. The third one down, landscaping, it starts at 250, 200, 100, and then it ends up at 5,500. So I just wondered what that's for. I can't speak to it at all, I don't know anything about it, but just it seemed like a big jump.
2,500 of it's from the transfer station, because that was underground maintenance for some reason and building, and then that's all part of, if you read job descriptions, we're supposed to keep a pristine landscape, which we haven't been doing. So it's for flowers, plants, trying to maintain all the buildings outside and grounds.
What's that?
I just didn't know what it was, it just seemed like a big jump and
I agree with you
just
100%.
asking.
I think a lot of the things we weren't doing at all, and that's the hard part. When you start doing them, it becomes expensive.
And if you look at the transfer station budget when they get to it, if you look back to 22, you'll see that there was like $3,500 for grounds maintenance, and that all got moved to that line when we consolidated all the heat, electricity, and stuff like
I'm not
that.
opposed to it, I just didn't know what it was.
They go to defensive quickly, so don't worry
I
about
was just trying to explain where it came from.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else in government buildings? No? Cemetery? No? Police department?
it. Good timing.
And the chief just walked in. Anything in there? No? Ambulance? No? Fire department?
Let's just hire them. Oh, is he still here?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You gotta wait till July 1st.
No comment, no, nothing.
Code enforcement?
Nope.
EOC? No. Highway department? One thing just to mention, I think it's been brought up a little bit in terms of, there's a part-time assistant in here to assist Steve with, the DPW director with administrative tasks. He does many administrative tasks that could be handled more adequately with an assistant. So he can do the other stuff that's more.
He's been technically doing several people's jobs, and so it's becoming impossible to continue
It's difficult.
to maintain them all.
Mr. Bullock, can you speak to what you and I spoke about in terms of the road? Oh, you've got. Yeah.
Oh, this email, oh,
Yeah.
I thought this was a copy for me.
No, that's mine, I let you, but, Steve, can you speak a little bit in terms of, because I don't think the Trent has seen this, but can you speak a little bit about what you're talking about in terms of those
Well,
particular
that's all
issues?
trash, not highway.
Oh, sorry.
So I guess there's any comments.
Well,
I think the email was all about trash.
Yeah.
And the solid waste
Very
budget.
trashy.
But then,
The highway one,
yeah,
so like the increase that I asked for 327 is dramatic, but if I'd have gotten what I requested last year, it wouldn't have been anywhere near that scary looking. But I think there's a way you can cut a little bit. In the CIP, we have due this year to rebuild a half a mile of road for $200,000. And we are grinding at least a half a mile and rebuilding the first half of Wednesday Hill Road. So we should be able to use that CIP money for grinding and paving that first half mile, which would probably be, you'd be able to reduce the operating budget, but I'd also still be able to get my full allotment of $327,000.
That's amazing.
But that would be like a one-time thing. Next year, that money wouldn't be there for the projects that we need to do.
so do that again to me, for me, excuse me?
Are you saying it was the,
Saying to use the CIP rebuild a half a mile of road that's set in the budget or in the CIP for $200,000 and use some of it, some of that $200,000 toward the paving and rebuilding the half a mile of road that we're going
there's money that's already in,
for this year. So like if you made that 200,000, which is 10,000 more than last year, and then we take $127,000 out of the CIP for the rebuild of half a mile of road, that would still give me what I asked
I see
for.
what you did.
But it wouldn't,
That's a one-time.
yeah, it's a one-timer
but
thing.
it will get us through as we're dealing with this crisis of expenses.
Yeah, and then next year's paving thing, unless the prices go through the roof more than they already are, wouldn't be this high for what I asked for because we wouldn't be doing the grinding project.
That is great news.
All right, so
That was my idea. I don't know if it'll work, but that was my idea.
You came through for us last year, and you came through us again.
that road reconstruction, we're agents to expend, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you ladies amenable to changing the highway and asphalt line item from his requested 327 and the 275 that the ABC is suggesting, reduce it down to 200,000?
Yes.
Rebecca, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Oak's okay with that.
Thank you, Steve.
I think it's a way that
It's great.
the operating budget lowers and we still have the money there to be able to do what we needed to do.
We're agents to expend, so that's fine. Great, thank you.
Did you want to smell trash? No, that one.
Yeah,
We
no,
don't
sit
want to
down.
talk about trash now.
Okay, thanks.
Transfer station? The thing that has been noted earlier is this, these particular changes is reflective of taking one of the people that were hourly and switch them to full-time.
Yes, and then we achieved that because the police department had used one of their positions to give pay raises to a few people, so we used that benefits position toward the full-timer. So it didn't actually cost anybody any money.
So that wasn't solved an issue in terms of finding somebody in this tough labor
Yes.
market to fulfill that.
Yes, and then in the part-time wages that's there, you probably get rid of that 5,300, because I'm not, you can't hire a part-timer for that little amount. And I don't want to do a part-timer with what I have. If
That's
we
great.
got a senior at 5388.
So where's the,
It's under number 1, 2, 3, 4 down.
112 less.
oh,
It's under
okay.
part-time wages. I know you guys have been doing, I don't know if it's worth just leaving $1 in it, like you were
Yeah,
doing
that's fine.
before.
Yep, good idea.
Leave $1. So Andy, can you reduce that? Yep. By 5387? Okay. And also, Andy, you got a copy of this too.
And Andy and I had talked about the stuff in the previous one, in another email too, about reducing. You gotta go back up one. Because there's money that needs to, I think you already did it. The dues and subscriptions line,
Yep.
which is where some of the, that's why it was 3,800.
Okay.
Before was because that's where we paid some of the Lamprey costs out of.
Okay.
And I left it at 1,700 because I didn't know we were doing one payment now.
Okay.
So that 1,700 can get reduced to, I think it was $400. Because that would be every single person's license renewal of the state that currently has one for the transfer station.
Excellent.
Can you keep going? This is
I think we,
Keep going.
I think it's 400, but I think we increased the operating / closure cost to whatever the total would be on the next budget down.
So solid waste. And Andy, you need to tweak the MSW back up to 97,000.
And then
No, 97.
the construction one, I think needs to go up a little bit too.
Increase the C&D to 16.5, back to 16.5.
Okay, so I've got it 96, I should make it 97.
And that's with the only problem with that, and I said in the email, is that doesn't leave me the extra little bit,
The buffer.
the buffer that we get, because there's years where we'll end up hauling a little bit more.
So we need to recycle better, and then we won't need a buffer.
Wow.
Can we make that happen?
I did the math in the final year of the contract we get, if it passes, we definitely need to recycle better.
Yeah, that needs to become priority.
Okay, so on this solid waste, we want to go from 96 to 97
Correct.
on MSW, and the other was construction. and-
Yeah, it goes to 16.5.
Okay,
16.5.
16.5 from 16,000.
hazardous waste is the other one.
Yeah, hazardous waste can go to 2,405, I think is what I said,
Yep.
right?
Yep,
And
and the 32.
I just signed that and sent it back to Dover today.
Oh, great, thank you.
So did you capture all those, Andy?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
That one goes up and down every year with what,
So the only risk we're taking here is this whole fluctuation in terms of tonnage.
yeah, so what's funny is, because we're split in between the two, we usually do about 100 tons more in the 6 months following the new year, going into the end of the fiscal year than we do in the first half.
Because of the holidays?
No, people are cleaning out their houses
Oh.
in spring cleaning, and we end up usually doing about 100 to 150 tons more than we did in the previous 6 months.
Well, it sounds like we have to get Karen to do more yard sales, I guess.
Yes.
That'd be great.
And then the lamp reclosure was just what the total cost for the entire thing would be.
All right. Anything else in solid waste?
I think so.
No. Health agencies?
I have some concerns here.
Go ahead.
One of the things I've been learning as I've been learning about these different programs is how important Community Action Partnership is. It is vital to our community. We talk a lot about how we don't spend a lot of money from our welfare. And the reason is because that is a huge portion of who's helping to take care of our residents. Their programs help in so many different ways. So I very much would like that $4,000 they've requested, because they've done a lot of work to look into what we use as a town, what our people are actually using, to go to 4,000, not the 2,000. I also am concerned about the homeless shelter in Stratford. Have we heard from them?
No.
Because if somebody is homeless or experiencing homelessness in the town of Lee, there's nowhere for us to take care of them. They have to go someplace else, and we're taking our expense and we're putting it on the backs of other towns.
No, they will charge us. They will charge us. They've done it before.
So I'm sorry, so did they not request anything? I'm
Yes.
We did not get a request from those two.
Did we find out why? Because
So
last
from
time we talked, I
either?
asked if we could reach out to them.
Yeah, I don't believe we got a response in response to the inquiry about why we didn't get a request.
Yeah, because they moved to a new facility. Maybe they don't need our help, but definitely, Katrina, if somebody gets sent to that particular facility from Lee, they will bill us.
So do we get it, because some of that happened this year, right? Do we have it down here somewhere?
No, that didn't happen this year. It's happened in previous years.
So one of the things that maybe is confusing about how that works is that it's challenging to figure out where someone's residency was, and it's where you've lived recently based on that. So I'm just, if somebody is experiencing homelessness in our community, I just want to make sure that we're.
That's a Pat Matthews question. I do not know the answer to that.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot to these different communities, and
Actually, I'm sorry, let me just, no. I apologize for sitting here. I did correct this, and I don't know if you've got an older budget, but the budget that I'm using, the most updated, I updated the 4,000
Oh,
to
thank you.
2,000. And I had tracked down, where is the homeless shelter? Yeah, they had made a request for $2,000 when we talked to them.
Okay.
so we can put that back in and keep the 4,000 for cap.
That's fine.
Great, thank
I
you.
apologize for that.
That's fine.
These are just very important things to make sure we're taking care of.
Anything else in health? No? General assistance? No?
We've actually had, I mentioned that we've had very low usage. Pam has been in a couple of times in the past, end of last week, this week, to deal with some situations. I haven't seen what the outcome's going to be yet, but
So I know that we've had a couple of other requests, and that's because the government funding's gone away. We're already starting to see the need, and it's just January.
Well, no matter what we budget, we have to expend what we have to expend.
Of course,
It really
I'm just-
doesn't make any difference.
Right, I'm just saying, we were very excited about how, or people were talking about how we didn't spend very much, but that's because there was so much government funding the last couple of years.
It's just weird to see that, there's so much need out there, but we're not spending anything.
And
what it's like.
that's the thing that these groups are really frustrated with us about, because they're covering those expenditures, and if we're not participating, then we're not paying our share. Even though the region is taking care of those people, the expenses go to the cities and towns, cities and the towns are not paying their fair share. So that's just confusing.
All right, Parks and Rec?
I did talk to Matt Glode regarding the board's questions about whether Oyster River Youth Association could help identify children specifically from Lee that met the threshold for needing financial assistance. He said that they would, and they have, and they actually have a name or two now that they would be interested in talking with you about if we were going to create such a fund. I said that this was a fund for the fiscal year and probably wouldn't be of value immediately, but.
Do we have any funding that we could discuss anything?
They have their own fund that is applicable to anyone that applies to their program that they.
Yeah, this year is for next fiscal year.
But like the rec committee or something, if there wasn't funding, then they could discuss it with them. That's
They
great.
could. Do we want to put some money in for that particular purpose?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if we need another line, Andy, so there's no confusion that we're not donating to the Oyster River Youth Association.
I think you
Donating
clearly
to-
need another line.
And I think it's also important, maybe it's something we think about is it only for Oyster River Rec, or if someone is wanting to be part of a program or something in a struggle, is that something we open up? If a child is looking to participate in something, is it only Oyster River Rec that will help them with, or could they participate in
Well,
something else?
for me, it's the need
Mhm.
is what I'm looking at. If there's a need, I'm not necessarily wedded to just Oyster River Youth.
We just call it
But there's
scholarships?
others, but it's based on need,
Absolutely.
so.
Could we have need-based scholarships as a line?
I'm not sure if there must be logistics to deal with that too, so.
I was going to say, you're going to be creating an account or a fund of some sort, and you're going to need some guidelines for what's need-based, and you're going to need some guidelines for who's going to decide.
There you go.
Because right at the moment, if we use just Oyster River Youth, they already have those things in place. So maybe, this is just maybe, I don't know if the rec department would take that on in terms of developing criteria and guidelines and how that particular thing would work. At this
So we
particular
could
time.
maybe do Oyster River for this year and then ask the rec department to.
We could do that too.
Make
But we have to
requests.
determine what that amount is.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes and no. I mean, maybe it's something we can talk to, we can put in general assistance instead.
Yeah,
I don't know if the people of the rec committee want
perfect.
that,
So could we add, that's a great idea like that, because that's a person who already knows where the needs are and they can discuss with the schools, and that we know when it shouldn't be involved isn't involved. So that makes sense, right? Thank you.
The amount?
Right now, is there starting maybe 2,000? Do you think, what was your amount in your mind?
yeah, I was saying 1,000, 2,000. I mean, if they've already got a couple of kids.
Is it cheap? I'm just kidding. I was thinking 5.
He's feeling rich already.
But, how many kids does it take to use up, that amount of money? So,
Well, if he could only identify 1 or 2 kids for the current seasonal
Right.
sports.
It's $75 per sport.
well, it depends on what it is.
Right.
If it's hockey,
It's
it's
like
way
Even
up.
so, I think 1,000 to 2,000 right now, I think until people hear that that's an option, and then they can.
All right, so let's do $2,000, if you're both amenable to that, and we'll see how it goes. If it goes like gangbusters, we can always see if we can find money someplace else.
It could be something that is fundraised for,
Could be.
for other people.
Could be. Thank you. All the idea, at least for me, was to give those particular children from Lee that
Yes,
can't participate the equal opportunity with everybody else.
100%.
Anything else in Park and Rec?
No.
No. Library?
We already agreed that we should allow that full-time.
Did I get that in blood, anything?
Yeah, I think you want it.
No, not your blood. That
Oh,
doesn't count.
okay. I'll give my blood for anyone. It's fine.
I can't give my blood. I'm British, so it's mad cow's disease.
Suzanne, well,
How about the ink from your pen at the library or something?
Okay.
purposes? No?
We discussed why, so I
Yeah.
understand.
Conservation? Bond payments, interest?
No choice.
No. Okay.
The benefits are where they are.
The capital reserve funds, we should hit every single one of those when we do the warrant articles.
One article.
So are we in agreement that we can remove the one for the fire system?
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
We in agreement that we can remove the fire system?
Article 7.
Article? The 100,000, not the.
Article 7.
You jumping around again?
Yes, she is.
I like to keep it exciting.
Yeah, but then you confuse yourself.
I
All right,
wasn't confused.
I was confused. I've been here too long. All right, Article 1, 2, we have no control over. 3, we will change that to the, whatever, 60,000 less than what that is, correct?
Yes.
So it would be
Unless
4,800,000.
Gary tells me
If that is what we're supposed to do, otherwise no. So we'll.
Yeah, well, we're not signing it tonight, so that'd be $4,824,013.
If that is the recommendation.
Yep. Article number 4, anything on that one?
The one thing I would
Sorry.
mention is I believe the trustees are here this evening to specifically talk about warrant article number 4. You have an appointment with them. I don't know if you want to talk to them before you.
I have an appointment with them?
They're under
Can
number
I do that
4.
now?
Yeah, right?
Wait a minute.
It's on there.
Be under 4.
They're
We're
listed
still in
under.
the budget hearings.
But wouldn't it help if while we're doing this to, no, but wouldn't it help to know?
Don't run away.
Would it be helpful at this point to know?
Well, we're speaking to Article 4. If she has something to speak to Article 4, which sounds like she does, let's do it now.
All right, I do. The trustees came up with the 200K for the warrant article because we got estimates and they came up to around 200,000, and these had to go into the CIP. So that's why we got these estimates. The HVAC system improvements was 53,000. The interior hazardous materials mitigation and insulation was 30,000. The exterior improvements, including lead paint abatement, was 50,000. And on top of that, basement finishing was 150,000. So we came up with $200,000. And this warrant article needs to be in here so that we continue to maintain this property.
None of those things are in the current renovation plan. Okay.
No, they're in the CIP, and I think, I'm not exactly sure which ones are in the financial planning tool, but there are.
But they're things that are basic maintenance of the building that aren't library specific, they're just to maintain the building and keep it running.
Yep.
The basement maybe is different.
Any questions? No? Number 5?
You have a question there.
I'm sorry. Mr. Chapman?
John Tappan, 187 Stepping Stones Road. Just a note, those items you're talking about, they're not in the FPT. Library trustees did not respond to the request for input.
Thank you.
So when you get to discuss the FPT, if you want to put them in, you need to know the details.
Okay.
Thank you.
Annie, can you share those? I think you've got some of them here, but I
Oh,
think
sorry, you couldn't hear. So he was just saying that those items were not actually in the FCT yet because when requested for that information, we don't have it, but we'd love to get it.
Yep.
I have some updated numbers, and I think Annie actually read the numbers that Emily Woodall had sent me after I sent you the CIP sheet.
Okay, all right. So you have the information in terms of?
I do.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right. Article number 5? Nope. Article number 6?
So I think, so my comment about Article 6 was, so the 160 I assume is what the ADC recommended. When I went back to the FPT, that was not the number that looked like it was in there.
Yeah, where did the number come from?
I believe they were talking about 100,000 that we've been putting in, and the 60,000, which was part of the bond
Yeah.
for this particular structure.
Which makes sense.
In anticipation of we need to be doing something with the town officers. I believe that's what their point of that particular number was.
The only thing I would do is make it higher, not lower.
Okay.
Because if you look at the actual numbers, it's supposed to be an enormous amount higher. Especially if all these things with these extra buildings that have not in any way been considered or added to that FPT gets expensive.
All right. Article number 7 is been removed.
Okay.
Chief, are you okay with that? Okay. You understand what we're?
Yep.
Okay.
That
So
means I can
when
work
you
anytime.
have more information or you're ready to move, bring that to us so we can move on that. Article number 8.
So again, the FPTV said 90 instead of 89, so I'm not really sure where the 89 came from.
That was Steve actually doing the numbers.
Okay.
That's one of the
That's fine.
reasons I wanted us to meet last Thursday, that's, I
know.
couldn't, just to make sure that the FTP matches up with what we're proposing or what they're
Is
proposing.
it less confusing if we make it a round number, or is it easy to?
How do you define round?
Yes.
Like, not 89, but like 90.
Well, why not round up to 100 then?
That's why
Where's
she's
the
saying,
rounding?
I feel that. I'm just asking if that's confusing.
I think the financial plan, that's why I wanted to see if we can review the financial planning too,
Well,
just to
then
make
don't
sure.
get sick next time.
Well, I blame you.
Wow.
We were
I blame
ready.
you.
I didn't have anything.
Okay, moving on.
All right, number 8, we're all set. Number 9, same thing, 92.
Came from Mr. Bullock.
That came from the financial planning tool, I believe.
No, I have it as 78 in the financial planning tool.
Yeah.
Okay,
These were changed at your last meeting, I think, based on the ABCs.
Right, so I think they came from the ABC. I'm not really sure how they calculated that.
well, ergo, last Thursday's meeting.
And I believe it may have been Mr. Blomquist that said that they had reviewed the CIP and the financial planning tool when they came up with the numbers.
Okay. So do you want to revisit that one at the next meeting?
I think maybe we can see if we can do a financial planning tool meeting between now and the 23rd.
That sounds fine.
So,
Let's make
number
it-
10? Same thing.
Same thing,
All right.
same comment.
All right, and number 11. Can we get the chief to come and speak to us about this? This is the
Has
first I'm
before.
kind of hearing about it.
No, I brought it up several times before.
It's
Well,
also in the
maybe I
financial
don't remember.
planning.
Yeah, that I believe. It's the whole plan
Yep.
to change the.
Yep, okay.
Wow, he's like done.
I can do it for you if you want.
No, so currently we have 2 utilities, utility 1, utility 2. Utility 2 is the older one. It's got the better engine in it, so we want to refurb that, which is Article 12.
Okay.
To make it a full-time forestry, we don't have that many forestry calls. We do run mutual aid to surrounding communities, we have our own.
Okay.
So we think as a group that that's something that we can put some money in towards that will last years and years and years because of that engine. Utility 1 is the newer one, but we've had many problems with that mechanically. We've been spending a lot of money on it. It makes its own oil.
That's good.
So if we want to use that for the furnace, we can do that.
Okay.
But we've had a lot of issues with it, and we used to run it as a forestry and medical apparatus. It's dual wheeled in the back, which isn't really that great for the forestry side of things. And we were also towing the air trailer with it, which was very heavy.
Okay.
We have now taken over the air van from Seacoast Chiefs. We are housing the trailer now still. We are looking for a different fire department, hopefully up in Maine, that's within Seacoast Mutual Aid Fire District, so they can take that. Because we're responding up to the Berwicks all the time with the air van. So because we don't have to tow that, we don't need the dual wheel vehicle anymore. So we were thinking about getting a utility truck. We do go to the transfer station ourselves. We plow this parking lot, helping out Steve. We're gonna use it for inspections. Jeff can take it during the day. I wanna put a small command board in the back, so if I'm out of town, Jeff can use that, so that we'll have the right things for command that we need for the fire ground. So that was kind of the thought back a year or two ago. The CIP had, I think, over $80 $9,000 just to replace utility one, but back then we were in a different spot as well because of the air trailer and the use of the truck, so.
Do you still feel that these are the right choices as of right now?
Yeah.
Great. And that'll decrease wear and tear on the other vehicles we have, which will make them last
Correct.
longer.
Utility two right now, it has a plow on it. We would take the plow off of that truck and put it on the utility truck. And we'd go to the state bid list for the new utility truck, which would just be a pickup with lights. And then we started a truck committee for utility two to refurb that. We have a lot of good members. One of them used to be on a wild van fire team out in Arizona. They made a movie about the team that he was on. And then we have another personnel that has his degree in forestry. So, and then we have some maintenance guys. So we started a truck committee to look at that so that we could find the best forestry truck for the department.
And you mentioned some of the dates on the trucks
those
are
are wrong.
incorrect,
Yeah.
so I assume
I'll work with
that's some.
Andy to fix that.
Okay. Any questions on 11 or 12?
No, I'm excited to have more forestry ability. I think that's important. That's the concern I have as our forests are struggling.
All right, Article 13? Anything? 14? Nope. 15? Nope. 16?
Where did the 19 come from? The library trustees give us that?
What's the amount that's in there, is that one?
It's like 119.
Oh, yeah, and the financial planning group has 30 needing to come out, so I was wondering.
Sitting here for so long.
Yeah, come on up, Trish.
I haven't done this in a while.
Yeah.
This is what you do with the microphone.
There you go.
People like me who can't hear. Yeah, Rebecca, I don't know, the library has 2 capital reserve funds. One of them is the building fund, and we've been spending down the money in the maintenance fund. And I think we are currently working on that 40,000, that 100,000 that we asked, and I think we still have about 40 left to spend on that. So we just thought, we'll be going, hopefully things will be happening this summer, come July, so just take it all out of there. Because it's the main,
But you only need 19. I was questioning the sum, so 19 is all you need.
because we estimate that that's
Okay.
pretty much what will be left in there.
So do we have a different number? Because I think we're disagreeing with what's left in that
Yeah.
fund.
I mean, yeah, John will know the.
Yeah, so is that what we're looking for, is just the remaining amount? Yes.
Because we weren't taking into account the most latest interest figures, and,
So what do we have for a number?
And I figured we could change it.
How to shake more of that money, Tracy?
Okay, I'll take every cent I can get.
A lot more.
Okay.
John Tappan, I'm speaking as the elected bookkeeper for the trustees of trust funds. So the ending balance, first, it is not the library maintenance fund.
Right.
We've been struggling trying to get the word maintenance out of it for more than 2 decades.
Which we can do if we make it 0, right?
No. But when we get a new bookkeeping system, we will get the correct name in there.
Yay.
It's just the library capital reserve fund.
And that's what I put in the article.
The ending, the article is correct. The ending balance December 31st was $119,836.01. With Article 7, March 9th, 2021, the legislative body approved the withdrawal of $100,000 from the fund for, quote, renovation and addition to the library. On June 27th, the trustees of trust funds approved a reimbursement to the town from the fund for a total of $15,117.08. So from that $100,000, there was $84,882.92 left.
Okay.
And on June 27th, the select board voted to treat the appropriation as encumbered for 1 additional year. So from that original appropriation of $100,000, 84,800 could come out of the 119,000 that's there as of the beginning of January.
And that's what they're
So-
using right now to be using.
So the amount that could be available as of January 1st is $34,953.09. I don't like to make predictions about what interest rates will be, but currently that fund is earning, well, for the month of January, it's going to earn about $307. So at the end of January, it'd be about $35,200. And if that holds, at the end of the year, it'd be about $36,700. But the important number there is the maximum that could be taken out as of January 1st of this year is $34,953.09.
You're not putting any more money into this, right?
Correct.
Correct. There hasn't been any money. That's another thing, is that it's shown in the list appropriations to trust and reserve funds. It shows $30,000 being added last year to this one, but it was not to the Library Capital Reserve Fund. It was to the Lee Library Building Capital Reserve Fund.
Plus, no matter what you do, the account is still there. You have to physically close it. You have to have more close it.
Yes, that's correct. Drawing it down to zero does not close the fund.
So, what's the real difference between the two library capital reserve funds?
Primarily history. As far as function, the Lee Library Building Capital Reserve Fund, its purposes are actually a subset of the Library Capital Reserve Fund. The Library Capital Reserve Fund was created as a capital reserve for the library. So it can be used for the building, it can be used for furniture, shelving, computer circulation system, etc. Whereas the Lee Library Building Capital Reserve Fund can only be used for the building. And the only reason we have two funds is because of the history when there was an effort to create a library community center. And a library community center is not the same as a library. So a separate fund was needed for the library community center. And by a change of purpose, that library community center became the Lee Library Building Capital Reserve Fund.
Okay. I know, I'm gonna fail it. So, would the trustees like the library capital reserve fund to go to a zero balance? Was that the goal with the 19, was to remove the remaining?
Oh gosh, I'm the only one here.
So do you want that number to get higher is what we're trying to say?
Like, you said 19 was what you thought was left.
Right, but if we're getting about 300 a month in interest, right, I had 39,000 left, but, you know.
Somewhere around there.
Okay, so you weren't trying to withdraw it to zero. The 19 wasn't what you thought the balance was.
Oh, were, I mean.
Yeah, I think you would.
We kind of were trying to draw it down to, do you want me to?
So what number
Probably
should we
because
make
he's
it?
gonna yell at us that you're talking from your
Yeah.
seat.
Come up and stretch some more.
See, I did it quicker that time.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, we were kind of thinking of just using it up.
Well, there's
I
two
mean-
things you need to do. One, you need to draw it down, and
Right.
two, you need to close it.
And to what?
Close it.
Close it.
Do you want
Close
to
it.
close it? Because it sounds to me like that's the wrong, like,
Because we wouldn't be able to buy shelving or furniture.
because you can't buy shelving from the other
So, but the
fund.
point is, yeah, what is the number you want to be here? Is that the right, is 19 the right number, or do you want a different number?
I don't know, can we
You don't have to
Discuss it,
decide.
correct.
we don't have, because, yeah, we have our meeting on Wednesday.
Yep.
So we'll talk, we can go over.
If you
It
discuss
doesn't
it,
have to be to the exact amount.
We just want it to be the number that you want it to be.
Yeah.
Right, if you want 30,000, there's 30, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you guys
So-
need.
Well, we have spent, and we figure we'll continue to spend between now and July.
Okay. So there might be less, is what you're saying.
so
Take it.
between now and when we meet again on the 23rd, please get back to Andy and let him know what that number is.
Perfect, and then we'll go with that.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks. 17? Any evaluation?
Yep,
No?
Super excited. Okay, to-
18?
I have no comments.
How concerned are we with the gentleman, Mr. Martin Castle.
I think his concern was that someone was gonna come in and like somehow remove the warrant article so we wouldn't vote on it, and then they would still get $50, which I don't think that's correct. There's nothing we can do about that.
They could change the amount.
Is there, my only issue here is there's a weird decimal place after 750 in both of these, and I don't know why.
It's where?
There's like a period. Did you mean it to be a period? My question is there a typo?
Yeah, there you
I can certainly remove the decimal if you'd like.
It seems weird because there's no zeros after it.
It's in 18-2.
Yeah.
We should make them both, like, either with 2 zeros after or no period.
I will remove the decimal.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay.
Sounds good.
20?
No comment?
21 and 22 we can't do anything about.
Nope.
So I have a question. If we have a separate petition article that's the opposite of 22, can you vote one or the other?
Yes, they're two separate articles.
What if one is to demolish and one is to save? They can't both pass.
So the option is if they both pass, then that's a problem. If they both
So should we
fail,
have that figured out?
then it's not a problem. If one passes and one fails, so yes.
If they don't pass, either of them pass, then we can neither keep nor demolish it because the town has said no about it. So how do we make that so that
No,
we're not?
because then it comes back, I believe, this is a DRA thing. It'll come back to what's actually on the books at the moment.
Which is demolish.
Which is, it cannot be demolished until after July 1st, 2023.
So what
So
if
both
they
of them
both,
fails.
what if they both pass?
Then that's a problem.
So should we word it so we don't have a problem?
Well, you can't.
You can't change
You
it.
can't word petition.
Are we allowed to put like a
No.
statement saying
No.
these two are opposites?
No.
You can put information in the voter's guide advising people.
Well,
but-
we have notes underneath Article 18 and 19.
That's probably through the RSA.
And yeah, this language, and the reason you got the weird decimal point was these were copied exactly from the boilerplate template that was provided.
But you can't put notes on any other things.
No, as I said, in the voter's guide, you can.
That's good.
And we may be told to remove this note too, when this actually
Okay.
gets uploaded.
So we'll let
There's a
it
fair
go.
chance.
Okay, great.
And since we haven't seen the second one that deals with the parish house, I can't comment, so,
Right, okay. We'll discuss it at the next time.
well, we'll just, yeah, the next time we meet.
All right. Looks good.
All right, anything else?
So we are not closing, we have to,
Right, what I would need the chairman to do is move to continue the town of Lee budget public hearing to a date certain, such as January 23rd, 2023 at 6 PM at the PSC.
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? Although, oh, wait a minute, it's not a roll call.
I don't believe it needs to be a roll call as long
Okay,
as.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right. Anything else?
Karen Rossi will not be joining us this evening.
Yep.
There were no consent agenda or other items. I would like to go into non-public under A if possible, just briefly.
Okay.
Business, no new business.
Just to be clear, did Annie leave?
Yes,
So
Annie's
Annie's all
on.
set, right?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
All right, so under regular business, you don't have anything?
I have nothing.
Old business? No. New business? No. All right. I move to enter non-public section under RSA 91-8:3, Roman number 2, section A. Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion?
Denise is saying something about closing the hearing.
No, you need to leave it open.
I continued it.
Okay.
I can't close it because I already continued it. I'll leave
All right,
it.
as long as she, I don't know, she just texted me.
Tell her, she told us to continue it.
I'm sure she can hear us.
Yeah, you can't close it if you're going to
Okay,
continue.
I'm just relaying the messages that are coming to me.
All right,
Thank you.
so we're in non-public session.
Thank you.
I move to seal the minutes from the non-public session. Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? No. And I'm gonna change things up. Rebecca Hawthorne,
Yes.
Katrina Casper,
Yes.
Scott Bugby, yes, motion passes. I don't know why I always do you first. Maybe it's just.
In order, or you're thinking down that way, I don't know.
Oh.
I'm happy with any
She's
order you want.
second. I mean, she's.
So she is the vice chair, so I
Yeah,
have
I
to
mean, it
like
makes sense to me.
bow.
I assume that's what it was. Next year, when you're no longer the chair, possibly,
Thank goodness.
then perhaps it'll go in a different order.
And
then the vice
depends
chair
if I
will
run.
be
If I don't run, then, you know,
But you
stuff
still have
happens.
chosen that answer.
All right, anything else for the good of the town?
We need to
Oh, yeah, that's
pick some
right.
possible dates for a financial
Right.
planning tool meeting. That's my phone here. Oh, God.
All right, so what's not good for people?
Everything.
Everything?
All the days.
How about Sunday morning at 6 a.m.?
That's
I
definitely
can
not
probably
good.
make that.
You could probably.
I would be excited about it.
All right, so 23rd is 2 weeks from tonight. Oh, wait a minute, isn't it the 20th? Or is it the 16th? What's the Martin Luther? thing?
The 16th, yeah, that's next Wednesday, and the 23rd is the Monday following.
Okay, so what days are good or not good? I don't know which way you want to go with this. So,
I have the greeters meeting on the 17th, so that's hard.
okay, so you want to try for that week? You want to try the 18th?
Yeah, I think definitely the 16th to the 20th sometime in there.
I could do the 18th, I could do 19th if it's early.
Oh.
I can do the 18th if I can get a ride for my daughter.
All right, you want, what,
I could do the 19th easily.
We can do the 19th unless we do it later,
Okay.
how later?
like 6:30.
I can't do that. Can you do the 18th?
Yes.
That's reluctant, yes?
Yeah, I'll just look at my schedule that week, it's fine. As long
Okay,
as it's
so one of our choices is the 18th at 6 p.m. We were talking about 2.
6:30 on the 19th.
6:30,
Work.
I would only be there an hour.
Okay.
fine.
I could be there on the 17th before 7. I just have to leave at 7.
I could do that.
I cannot do that.
Okay, so let's do the 18th at 6 and the 19th at 6:30. We're only an hour.
That's the backup.
Pete, I will talk to John tomorrow
Okay.
morning.
The other thing to share with Mr. Tappan, he and I had a conversation. He says, what do you want to accomplish? And what I would like to accomplish is to, one, review the FTP if there's anything new. It sounds like we've got a few particular items. And also to make sure that whatever we're suggesting for each of those particular trust fund deposits matches what we're proposing. And if it's not, determine what we are going to put in there.
I think that sounds reasonable.
Are we good with that, ladies?
Yep, sounds good.
That's fine.
All right. All right, I've had enough fun.
Okay, all right.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, good.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Where's
Motion
the-
passes.